He's the man when it comes to development, self-development. I post about him on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. He's the man. So I coach up. I hope you guys, you know, the garbage in, garbage out is, I think, programming speak for, what you put into the system, the code that you're using, the inputs that you're putting in is going to yield, your outputs. So if you're eating garbage, you're going to get garbage out, right? Garbage in, garbage out. And if you're eating information that's garbage, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If you're eating coaching from drones, drone programming in, drone playing out, right? You're either a wizard or you're a drone. Anyway, today what I wanted to get to, was what I'm most afraid to talk about, what I'm most afraid to say. Probably my most vulnerable moment as a hockey player, as a high-level elite hockey player, which was the time I realized I wouldn't make the NHL. And honestly, it's fairly hard to talk about. It's not something I think that a lot of hockey players do talk about. It's not something that a lot of hockey coaches talk about. But just really talking honestly about the path to the NHL. And yeah, putting myself out there. So, when was this? I'm just checking here on YouTube. YouTube's a little slow this morning, so if anyone's watching who has my number, fire me a text, fire me a Facebook message, because I'm not sure if this is recording right now. Regardless, I'm just going to talk, and then if I get texts or messages, actually, I'll just throw my number out there for anyone who is watching, because like I said, I'm uncertain about YouTube right now. My number is 778-733-1260. That's right. That's my cell number. You can text me right now. And let me know if this is working. So I want to describe something for you here, right? This is how committed I was to playing in the NHL. At age 13, I somewhere from the hockey drone community came this information that one must train hard in order and practice to, go to the next level, to do what it takes, or to go to that next level, to make it to the pros. And I was so committed to this that this was my day. Now, this might be a metaphor for my life, or for my career, actually. But I had this big, heavy mountain bike. I had like a 45 pound mountain bike that I saved diligently for, and I rode around everywhere. And my gym was about 10, 12 kilometers away. So it took about 35, 40 minutes to bike there. And so every day in the summer, like, not much of an exaggeration here, every day I would bike my 45 pound mountain bike, like heavy downhill mountain bike, to the gym, work out, and then bike it home. So this whole ordeal would take usually about 3 hours or so. Then I go home and start, and I'd be stick handling and shooting and stuff, and so I did this, right, fully expecting it to pay off, because that's what I'd been told. And the problem, of course, was that I didn't have the magic mechanics of the Wizards. So all this hard work was for naught, because I was missing parts of my game. But I didn't realize that until much later. So all my effort was going into training, getting better, but I was training the wrong things. I was practicing the wrong things. Okay, it's coming online now. So you guys can ask questions anytime. I might be a bit delayed in responding to them because it seems like YouTube's a little bit behind. That's okay. So anyway, this is my story. I don't mean to meander too much here, but I was willing to do the work, but I didn't have anyone to tell me, your mechanics are a little off here, right? You need to make these adjustments. Your mindset's a little off here. You need to make these adjustments. And so time went on, and I became a dominant player in my league at my age group, because I was bigger, stronger, faster, and had decent skills. And I could think the game simply, but I was still missing a few key things. And so, I was probably at my, let's say, peak when I was, let's say 17. Okay. And that summer, what ended up happening was, I think it was like a breakup. Like I had one of these teenage romances, and she dumped me, and I was upset, and I was working in a vineyard at the time. And I remember like picking these grapes, just upset, and realizing and saying to myself, okay, you know what? The best revenge is success. So I'm going to make the NHL. Like, I knew this already, but at that moment I realized, like, you know what? I've been working my ass off here. I don't really know where to go from here. Like, do I just keep working harder? And I don't want to shit on all my coaches. I think sometimes maybe coaches take it that way. I had a lot of really, really good coaches who were great people, who were very helpful to me, very formative. Like, I remember in midget, I had a really good coach. He helped me a ton as a defenseman. A lot of what I know and remember is from him. At UBC, I had great coaching from coaches who were extremely technical, very helpful when it came to playing. When I was in Powell River, again, I learned a ton from these coaches. But then there was these little things, these magic mechanics of the Wizards, the magic mindsets of the Wizards that were not taught. And it wasn't necessarily their job to teach that, right? They were in charge of the team, right? Their job was to make sure the team won. And most of them did a very good job of that, right? But I didn't have someone saying, hey, I'll be your, personal coach. I'm going to make sure that your mechanics work perfectly. And we're going to find these little hidden things that are going to make a big difference, right? And so I was hit at that point when I was like 17, 18, and I realized I'm not sure how to go from here to the next level. And I'm not sure, and I kind of started to realize once I hit 18 and hit junior A, and I thought, oh, like, I'm big and fast and strong. I'm bigger in terms of muscle, maybe not height, and faster and stronger than everyone here, but I'm not as successful as I was. Everyone's fast and strong. And I went, oh, uh-oh. And I was going, how do I go from here to there? And luckily, actually, you know what? It took a couple years of struggle at the junior A level. It wasn't really struggle. Like, we had good years, and I played well, but I played in a defensive role. It wasn't until my last year playing junior where a teammate said, hey, have you heard of this Darryl Belfry guy? And I went, oh, no. And I checked it out, and I go, oh my God. Here's a guy who's speaking a language I understand. Because up to that point, I did all the stick handling drills. I bought all the programs. I think I explained the other day of how I bought those big, heavy balls, and my poor roommate was like watching TV. He's actually signed with the Canucks now. He's watching TV, and I'm stick handling these balls on top of this laminate flooring. So I was making all this noise, and uh, but there was no one to say, hey, Jason, adjust your wrist position this much, or use your top hand this much instead. And I'd ask the best players on my team what they were doing, but they didn't always know, right? They didn't know what they were doing that made them so good. And that was I'm sure they looked at me like, what is this idiot doing? Why is he asking these questions, or why can't he get it straight? And here I am frustrated because they couldn't explain it to me. It's not their fault. And a coach couldn't explain it to me. And then here came, boom, Darryl Belfry, right? And he was actually given a framework, like an actual step-by-step, how do you shoot like NHL players, right? How do you shoot like that? Those next level NHL players. How do you go and think the game at a higher level like an NHL player, so you can be more valuable to your team, right? Your team coaches are saying, how do I make the team function as a whole, right? And then sometimes they'd say, okay, let's spend some time, working on skills, and but not necessarily like, here's how you think the game, or here's how you make these adjustments to make yourself way more valuable to the team. And they simply don't have enough time for that, right? Anyway, that's when I realized I had some catching up to do. When I realized, like, I've been allowing myself to be programmed by the drones for quite some time here. I've been allowing myself to think thoughts like, chip pucks out and work harder, and just do it. Why can't you do it? All these different things, right? I had been programmed for a long time, and these drone thoughts, these drone programs. And by the time I realized what I was missing, right, and gobbled up, I think at the time Darryl Belfry offered, you could pay to get access to his YouTube videos, and I friggin' ordered all of them, and watched all of them, and I think anyway, and I that went on, and I went, holy, like, there's a lot more to this game, and I need to go to the next level. And so kind of that period there was like, also at this period where these guys who did have the magic mechanics, right? I had these guys on my teammates who they had the magic mechanics dialed in, right? They had the magic mindset dialed in, right? These guys were wizards in the making. And they were like, they knew they were going here because they knew they had the magic mechanics, the magic mindset. And I was looking at them going, I'm not there, right? I am not there. I have some work I need to do. Belfry is showing me the way, or at least he's giving me a hint. And crap. And anyway, that's when I was like, I need to change what I'm doing, and I did. And so I dove into everything Belfry wrote, everything, right? Everything he wrote, everything he published, and tried to figure it out for myself. And of course, this guy has, a number of one-on-one clients. He's very busy. He works with the absolute best in the world. And I guess he didn't have time necessarily to publish his full anthology online. And I don't blame him. Like, he's working with the best in the world. So I was left with this gap, right? He stopped producing content. He wasn't, or as much content. He wasn't necessarily giving, these step-by-step instructions. So I kind of had to start figuring it out on my own. And that's what I'm really grateful for. I always give kudos to Stride Envy and Darryl Belfry, and Stride Envy came along, but he came along, after I'd finished playing hockey, or and he's breaking all these things down step by step by step by step, and I really appreciate that. So so in my coaching, I realized, I can build up to that, right? I do this with players when I'm coaching, and that resource was missing for me when I was 18, 19. Belfry was that resource for a bit, and then I started to I learned how to shoot in stride, which was the things he was talking about. I didn't fully understand weight shifts. I understood some of his concepts, and then I kind of petered off because there wasn't anything. He wasn't releasing anything more, and I just wish he had. So I had to start innovating myself to create my own evaluations for my game in this Belfry-like approach. And this whole time, knowing that I was far behind in terms of the wizard mindset, right, the magic mechanics, the magic mindset, that I was far behind a lot of these other people. So when I got to UBC, all these WHL players were in, and like very good WHL players, right, and I see their mechanics, right? I see their mindset, and I'm going like, oh crap. So really, like, there was that time when I kind of came out of this cloud of hard work and head down, full tilt action towards pursuing my goals when I was like 16, 17, and realized that the work I'd been doing for the past 4 or 5 years was not the correct work, and that I ended up getting quite a ways behind a lot of these players, and that was tough, like I said. And then I had to live the rest of my career kind of like knowing it was my goal to play in the NHL, right? Knowing I was doing absolutely everything I could to make it, but knowing that at this point I was far behind. And in terms of the magic mechanics, the wizard mindset, the magic mindset, I still had a lot of drone programming in me, and it was my own fault. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, was because that period of wanting to play in the NHL, but also confronting the reality that, if I objectively look at my skill set and compare it to, some of my teammates, my desire to play, my willingness to commit and put in the time, was not going to, I'd be another kind of 10 years in the making, or maybe shorter. Maybe it would have been like an extra 5, before I could get my skill set to that point, get my mindset, my mechanics, and all that to that point. The problem was that, my college career, or my college career was ending, and playing in the minors was simply something I didn't want to do for an extended period of time. I really like coaching. I built a thriving coaching business in Victoria, and I really, really love that, because I can coach and help a gajillion players, or at least more than when I'm playing and focused on myself. So. And so, that was the time I realized I wouldn't play in the NHL. It was hard, and then it was kind of awkward for a number of years. Well, I think my teammates knew it was my goal, but they were looking at me realistically and saying, you're a few years off, or maybe they weren't thinking that way. They're just thinking you're not cut out for the NHL. I was thinking I'm a few years off, because I know I could develop into that skill given enough time. And it was hard living with that. It was hard knowing that was my dream and my goal, but I was late, right? But in that process, I I learned a ton of stuff. I did a whole bunch of wacky stuff, right? My very last year, I was, I think this is the first time I'm saying this publicly, but I was insane, and I hid a GoPro in my arena and filmed my practices. And then I'd watch myself after and video myself, and I'd break down my video and I'd look at it and go, what am I doing wrong here? What am I, and I realized like some like major things that I had no idea on. Things like my lack of quote unquote, balance and rhythm, um, and then what I did was I also I've described this process before, but I got the NHL package on my cable. I paid the extra money for a PVR'd every single NHL game, and broke down what was happening with those NHLers and said, what is happening here that I don't yet do or I cannot yet do? I'd break it down, watch it carefully with my eye on biomechanics, my views there, and then I'd replicate it the next day at practice and use the GoPro, and I'm sure my teammates were like, why the hell is this guy getting out 50 minutes early for practice? And my practices in college were about 3 hours because I can get out an hour early and stay an hour after if I could. And these GoPro files are huge, by the way. And I actually have a cool one of me breaking the glass at one point. Like I said, these are things I have not said before publicly. And yeah, so in aiming to, go to the NHL, but knowing that, in terms of the time frame that I wanted to place on my hockey career, and kind of the standard of living I wanted to have while I was playing or, living, I was able to still learn a ton from a coaching perspective. And so what I want for players and parents is that if you want to play in the NHL, right, let's treat it as and I've talked about this before, but if you want to play in the NHL, let's treat this as a development opportunity, right? An opportunity to see what your potential is. Right? Let's set the goal at the NHL, the highest of the highs, right? Knowing that the odds are poor, being intelligent about our finances in the process, and then let's go for it. And if you top out at junior B, you top out at junior B, right? And it's probably not because you're a bad person or a bad player or a certain type of player. It's probably that you didn't learn the magic mechanics, the wizard mindset early enough. Because if you learned it early enough, right, you could be the wizard, the magic, the magician. You could, because for the first time, this stuff is getting broken down. And that's my true belief is that you can, you can learn the magic mechanics, the wizard mindset. It's a matter of learning it early enough or at all. And the nice thing, you might ask, like, oh, well, now that someone's distilling it and putting it in a program and showing us how to do it, aren't we all going to be wizards? And now, isn't it all the same? No, because guess what? There's only a few of you guys watching this video right now, right? I know how it works. It's about 15, players on a team, let's say. 2 of them are going to be committed, right? 2 of them are ready to be wizards, right? And let's say, there's 10 teams in an area, or they're willing to put in the work to become a wizard, right? And now let's say there's 2 of those players on every team. There's 10 in an area, so that's 20, right? Of those 20, the top 2, right? 10 are going to be really committed. Like I'm talking like insano committed, right? So so you might be saying, oh, won't that make everything? If everyone's a wizard now, then the game's the same. No, it's not, because There are players who are committed, who are willing to do this, to go step by step. And for those players, I want to make sure that you guys have that resource, right? That you have that resource to go from A to the NHL, or where you are right now to the NHL. And you might not have enough time, right? Or you might not have the financial resources to hire me to work with you one-on-one. But if you're playing hockey, you have the financial resources to invest the $47 a month to go into the membership area to learn step by step, right? And you guys to know that if you have that moment where you're like, I'm not going to make the NHL, what I want you to actually have is a moment of realization of maybe I might not make the NHL with my current skill set, but here's where I can go to take control right now. And maybe you'll never make the NHL, right? Maybe you will never make the NHL, but if your process was correct, you can be proud of that, right? I look back on my career and I know in my last, really the whole time I was hell-bent on making the NHL. I did everything in my power to do it, and it was my choice in the end to go to coaching. And I'm actually really proud of the effort that I put in, right? Like I said, even my regrets aren't regrets, because if I didn't have those regrets, I wouldn't be able to have learned to now produce this content, right? If I didn't have that huge desire and that huge down of not being able to make it, I wouldn't have this drive to make sure that you guys can take the resources that I've created and use them for your own hockey career. So I wanted to share that story. Like I said, it's probably the most uncomfortable I've felt. But like I said, if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm sure there's a player or a parent, I'm sure there's a player somewhere sitting there going, I want to make the NHL. I'm not sure if I can do it. How do I do it? Right? I'm scared. I don't want to say anything to my friends. I don't want to step out of line. Right? I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to say my true dreams. Right? I know you're out there. Right? I'm talking to you right now. And I want to say, okay, it's okay. Like, here, we can talk about you going to the NHL, right? Now, here's how you get there, okay? You might make it, you might not, but let's figure out what your potential is. Let's take control, right? There is a process. You can go step by step. You can get better 10 times faster. Here are the skills broken down. Here are the things you need to know broken down. If you can master them, if you can take the time and energy and attention to commit to it, here you go. Let's go. Right? And for the parents out there, right? And I know I'm talking to one of you right now too, a parent saying, my kid wants to play in the NHL. It's their dream. Right? Does every kid deserve to play in the NHL? Sure, yes. Every kid who puts in time and effort and energy and heart and desire deserves to play in the NHL. Right? Your kid deserves to play in the NHL. Bottom line. Not every kid will. But every kid also deserves to have their effort rewarded. Right? To put in or to get out what you put in. It's not fair to have a player put in very minimal effort and make it to the NHL because they happen to have magic molding moments early in their career by luck. And for your kid who's willing to put in the work and effort and attention, it's not fair for them not to get the results, right? So for the parent who's frustrated, who's anxious, who sees their kid toiling away, working so hard, right? I want you guys to have the resource to say, okay, here's the next step, right? Not to say, oh, what's maybe the next step, right? Go to this guru drone coach, right? let's go to let's throw $2,000 at this camp, right? I want you guys to have a spot where you guys can go where it's like, okay, this guy's showing me the NHL skills. Here they are. Here's how you get there. Here's how you do it 10 times faster, right? So, like I said, this was hard for me to talk about. I wanted to talk about the time I realized I wouldn't make the NHL, and what made it hard was when I realized that wouldn't happen, I didn't have the tools to course correct. Okay, and I want to give you guys the tools to course correct. That's my message today. I'm just checking out the comments here. I got it. It seems to be working here. Great. Hookie, thank you. You're always tuning in. I appreciate it. Satoshi, thank you very much for the comments. Satoshi says, I just want to say my son and I love your videos. Thank you, Satoshi. I really appreciate that. Like I said, I just hope that I'm on this hell-bent mission to now help players get better, because I think when you have a bunch of wizards playing the game, right, it's a way more fun game to watch. It's a way more fun game to watch. It's more enjoyable. Everyone loves a good tennis match, right, where you got the absolute best in the world going at it, right? No one wants to see two clunkers, firing the ball off their rims and unable to friggin', keep the ball in play and, blasting the ball 40 feet past the baseline. No one wants to see that shit. Right? People want to watch Djokovic and Federer play. Right? They want to watch that. Right? What if we had a bunch of wizards playing the game? Right? What if you were a wizard? How would that feel? What if your kid was a wizard? How would that feel? Right? So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Anyone who's watching, I'm not sure what the delay is like. So, because like I said, it seems to be about like a 6-minute delay. So, ask your questions if you guys have any. But it's probably best to text me. I'm going to try and see how far we are from this. Oh, it looks like we're actually not too far on our delay. So if you guys are watching, I'm here to answer your questions right now. And but other than that, I got to get to work on the membership site for you guys to make sure, and the YouTube videos for the members, for the Train 2.0 followers. You guys are awesome. Hookie, I'm sure you have some questions. You finish beauty. Fire away. More than happy to answer them. If you guys got any, and if not, it's okay too. Okay, and I'll just keep talking here as if you guys have any questions. So like the main thing I want you guys to understand is I'm persuading you moment by moment, Instagram post by Instagram post, YouTube post, from YouTube post, Facebook, Pinterest. I'm everywhere. My job is to persuade you, or my goal is to persuade you to become a wizard. And like I said, you're either getting programmed by the drones or you're getting programmed by the wizard. There's no in between. Right? It's kind of like you're either growing or you're dying. Right? So, which is it? Right? And I promise you, the wizards no one really understands them. So understand that if you want to be a wizard, you're going to have to deal with a bit of discomfort. You're going to have to deal with being uncomfortable a bit. You're going to have to deal with parents being jealous, right? You're going to have to deal with coaches not totally understanding you. And that's all part of being a wizard. I haven't warned you guys of that, but that is part of the process. So that also means you have to be okay with doing things differently. And that's what I'm saying. You're either in wizard mode or you're in drone mode. Right? You're either learning the magic mechanics or you're practicing sloppy old drone mechanics. You're either practicing your wizard mindset or your drone mindset. Okay? And what we know is that where your focus and energy goes, or is it focus goes, energy flows, right? So if you're focused on drone life, drone coaching, right, all that stuff, your energy is going to go there. And I'm hoping that this whole presentation has kind of explained that, man, it's not worth it to have all your energy go down a path and not have it pay off. Believe me, right? You don't want to be in the vineyard after your girlfriend dumps you thinking, I can't make the NHL and I don't know how. You don't want to be there, right? You don't want that for your kid. You don't want that for yourself. So it's time to start thinking like a wizard, to take information from the wizards. How do you do that? Okay, Paul's got a question here. Paul's asking, how do you learn your range and timing so you know when to dangle and when you're safe, i.e. out of the range of other sticks? Here, Paul, here it is. I learned the secret. The secret to dangling has nothing to do with a stick. I know I'm throwing everyone off here. The secret to stick handling has nothing to do with your stick. Nothing to do with your stick. Has nothing to do with your hands. So all the people who are practicing all their stick handling drills, there's a reason they're not magically in the NHL, right? I was watching that Japanese phenom, watching him skate or play. I saw some clips. I can't remember his name. And I'm like, this guy's got it. He's got it figured out. And what is it? What is it? Right? Everyone looks at Patrick Kane and go, the guy's the best stick handler. He's not the best stick handler. Oh shit, I did that again. That's like when I said Connor McDavid is not the fastest. Oh, here we go. Iguchi? Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, Iguchi, yeah. I'm watching him and I'm going like, this guy, he's got it. And what is it in terms of his dangles? Like I said, it's not the stick handling. It's not toe drags. It's not going through drills. It's footwork. That's the secret. It's his footwork. It's his patterning. It's his footwork, and it's his hips. And no one looks at that. No one pays attention to it. So, to answer your question, Paul, I think the best guy to look at in the NHL, just simply because he's a defenseman, so he's going to have a lot of these kind of attacks with a bit of space that's going to kind of show the range and timing, is Erik Karlsson. Watch his footwork. Watch how he patterns his stepping and how he ties his stick handling and his stepping together. So I have that in the membership area. I have a camp called The Hips Don't Lie, where I talk about how stepping and stick handling are linked and how to use rhythm and manipulation of rhythm to create time and space. So dangling is not something you do with your stick. It's something you do with your footwork, your patterning, and your hips. And if you watch Connor McDavid, you'll see my latest video. I allude to it at the very end. I talk about the hip scissor, right? I talk about how he uses the hip scissor to generate space, speed, and puck protection all at the same time. So that's his footwork, right? And that footwork, right, and those hips is what's going to, if you have that space and timing with the footwork, and you tie it together with your stick and your stick handling, your dangles are going to get about let's say 10 times better. Um, um, like it's almost like when I say 10 times better, it's almost not accurate because you go from like a null to a positive. So I don't know what that like mathematically equals, because it's like you never knew it before, and now I'm teaching you something brand spanking new that the Wizards do. So it's like it's not even like a 10x improvement because you weren't anywhere and now you're here, if that makes sense. So what was I saying there? So yeah, so like I say 10x improvement, and it's almost like people ask me, oh, how do you come up with 10x improvement? I don't know. It's catchy, but like a better way to describe it is like, literally magic. Oh, poof, skill, right? I don't know how many times I've taken a player who has either no skill or horrible mechanics and just adjusted things, and they all of a sudden they have skill because they've been shown the magic mechanics. So Paul, I hope that answers your question here about range and timing. So wherever you have the space to execute the footwork, that's when you have the correct range and timing. And where people get into trouble is they give themselves no range to do any footwork, and then they try and dangle themselves out of it with their stick. But that doesn't work because players are getting too good now. Those dangles don't work, and it's the footwork and the hips that create deception. And this is, I haven't heard Belfry, say this idea. I feel that's what he probably believes too. But other than him, and like I said, Stride Envy, like he shows the drills. I don't know if this is a common. I have never heard anyone say this about hockey, right? And how I learned this was just in watching. Like I said, like Belfry's never explicitly said this, but he implies it with his principles. And one of his Twit Longer posts was when he linked to a basketball player, and he went and he talked about the test fake and then go. So this idea of a basketball player giving a bit of a fake to test and to pull that defender out and get them engaged, and then he went, right? So give a bit of false information and then go again. So that's what Belfry, that's what kind of clued me into that was this basketball player, using this side to side movement of foot and body and ball all at once, and then turn that into and then apply that to hockey. So that was where my inspiration was. I'd love it if someone dug up that Belfry Twit Longer post. I could probably search it myself. It was like a few years ago, and yeah. So I know I'm kind of just going stream of consciousness here, but basketball players, they use stepping and they use the ball movement to create deception, and hockey players who just use the head and shoulder fake, a la the old school stick handling guys, doesn't work anymore. Doesn't work at all. Because I did it. I learned that. Oh, shoulder fake. Oh, now I'm way off balance, right? It comes from your stepping. It comes from your hips. That's where the deception comes from in today's players. Watch Patrick Kane come in, and he looks like he's not stepping, at all, which is, he's a strange player. But it's all coming, these little steps, the one foot goes forward, the other foot goes forward by 3 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. boom, 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 boom. These little hip turns, right, by 1 degree, 2 degree. This is how you dangle in today's game. And Iguchi, I watch his hips, his footwork, and I'm saying, this guy's got it. So like I see him as a wizard who's going to continue going up. There's another young player I watch locally, and I haven't seen all of them at this age range, but one player, I think he's an 06. He does all these things naturally too. He does. He's got the footwork, the stepping, the hips, very very dialed in. So I look at that and I go, okay, this guy's got it, because they understand that deception comes from the hips and from the stepping. And is it teachable? Yes, because I'm teaching his teammates, other 06 teammates, to do the exact same thing. They just need to be shown that. So I'll check here. Okay, so Satoshi asked, do you ever come out to Toronto? Thank you. That's really cool. Okay, so Satoshi, I do come out to Toronto, actually, and my good friend is a pilot. So maybe I'll go visit him. And I've got a number of other clients out there. I've actually got something really cool coming up for the spring summer. I'm not releasing complete details on it, but I'm going to do the world's first virtual hockey camp. And so scheduling and whatnot. So yeah, it's the world's first virtual hockey camp, where I'm going to be doing something called immersion days. So even if you train with another trainer, even if you are go to other hockey camps in the summer, you will be able to attend Train 2.0's the first virtual hockey camp in the world. It's going to be a full summer of training and instruction, broadcasted live, and then if you can't make it live, it'll be stored in the members area for people who are camp members, and there will be live instruction, like in person as well. So I'm going to be going to different cities, and mostly, of course, I'll be on the West Coast. Doing immersion days, but I'll be coming out to other cities as well. So the details are in the works. Keep it on your calendar. Keep it in mind. Budget that money aside for the world's first virtual hockey camp, and let's just go ahead and say the best friggin' one in the world. Okay. So Paul's saying that he often gets close and gets poke checked just before you're about to move. Yeah, the problem is you're probably getting too close and you're probably not moving your feet. Like I had this issue a ton when I was playing, as I would get too close and my feet would just plant, and I thought I was supposed to just dangle with my hands, right? Not so. If you're moving your feet and hips the correct way, and that's where the scissor, and Paul, if you remember, check out the Connor McDavid, how to skate like Connor McDavid video as well to learn the hip scissor. And then I also talk about, like the hip scissor in the Connor McDavid drive wide guide. So check that out, because all those things tie together. Because it feels like, I shouldn't be moving my feet, picking them up when you're getting in close to people. That's correct. You shouldn't be, right? But you should be using your hips and your footwork to provide deception and false information while maintaining control and speed. So use that footwork, and specifically the hip scissor, right? The pivot, heel pushes, all those things, to give yourself deception and control and speed while still dangling. Okay, Hookie, sorry about that. I have updated it. The articles that I write are just simply, if you just go to the blog. So you should be able to go to my tab, train2.0.com, and then just the tab to get to it should be blog. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong here. Any other questions that I can answer before I go? I'm chock full with coaching calls today. I've got a call at 11, noon, 2, 4, and then I go play my own hockey after my few weeks break. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope this is fun for you. It's fun for me. Like I said, if you haven't checked out the membership area, it's for you, right? It's for you, so you don't have to get programmed by the drones. And if you're a member, you'll get early access. You'll get advanced access to the world's first virtual hockey camp and best hockey camp. It's going to go all summer. It's going to be from April to August, a full summer's worth of training, completely live broadcasted for you wizards and developing wizards out there, but not for the drones. They're not welcome. And I've got some great coaches and coaching lined up. So thank you guys for watching, and see you tomorrow. Hey, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Google+, LinkedIn, wherever. Connect, text me. You guys know my number, 778-733-1260. Text me. Let's hear from you. And connect with me on everything. Share everything. Let's go. Let's make some wizards in this world. Let's go. And thank you guys for watching.